My guest tonight is in Australia for the World Science Festival, which kicks off in Brisbane tomorrow. He's a Pulitzer Prize finalist, theoretical physicist and mathematician who knows stuff about time travel, quantum physics and string theory. Ooh! Please welcome Professor Brian Greene. Thank you for being here. That was an intro. Welcome back to Australia. You've been here many times,
Thank
of course. Have you discovered any science things yet?
Not in the last couple of days.
Waste of time. Waste of
time.
Now, it's impossible to not talk to you without, thinking about the incredible loss that the world of science had over the past couple of weeks. Professor Stephen Hawking has passed away. You knew him personally, is that right?
Yes, I did.
You met him a couple of times. I'd love to hear any personal interactions you had with him and then talk about his wider work. You went to a dinner party with him? You've hung out with him?
Oh, no, we've had many dinners together and been to conferences together. And look, he was an incredible figure in science. And he was also a fun guy to hang out with. So that's a side of him that doesn't really get as much play, but he really was funny, smart. He was a great guy.
He would tell jokes?
He would. Slowly. But, yeah.
It's all about the timing. It
Yeah.
works. And for the layman, which I'm very much in that category, and I'm sure lots of people watching are too, what is the most succinct way to say what his work meant for our understanding of the universe?
Well, he gave us a new understanding of how space and time behave when you take into account quantum mechanics, a theory of how small things behave. And he applied those ideas to black holes and transformed our understanding of how they work, how they behave.
How did that affect your work personally?
It does. So the work that I've been focused on for 30 years has been trying to put our ideas of gravity together with our ideas of quantum mechanics in a so-called unified theory. And Stephen Hawking was one of the early people who showed us what such a theory would have to do, what it would have to look like. So, yeah, he's pervasive.
Right. Now, we don't have much time tonight, so we're just going to sort out the existence of God. And then Plebs is up next on ABC Comedy. So, you're doing this panel at the Science Festival on Saturday, and you're not getting into the old, can science and religion coexist, and does God exist kind of thing, but you are kind of interested in what science can tell us about why we have religious beliefs.
Yes.
Why does that interest you?
Well, look, I mean, you survey human beings across the planet, and 75% of us have some kind of religious belief, religious affiliation. Why in the world is that? Why in the world are so many of us looking up to the sky and thinking there's some kind of force, some kind of creator, some kind of divine being that's shaping reality, right? There's got to be some explanation that goes all the way back to the Paleolithic times. There must be something in our past that through natural selection, through evolution, has driven us to have this kind of a perspective. And that's the conversation we're going to have.
So you're looking for a scientific explanation as to why we believe in God, or why some people believe in God.
That's right.
Does that also necessitate the fact that God does not exist?
Not at all. It could be that the answer to why people believe in God is that God does exist. That would be the simplest, most straightforward answer.
We're done, everybody. Good night.
But here's the problem with that. There are on the order of 4,000 distinct religions practiced around the world. They can't all be right, right? So if I believe in my religion because it's true, I must say that the other folks in the world are somehow confused because they're believing in their religion and that religion is not true. So I'm still faced with the question of explaining why do they believe in all this nonsense that's not true, even if I believe that my religion is true?
So I used to be an atheist. Well, I am still an atheist, but I used to be a real douchebag about it. I've made plenty of jokes about it and stuff. If you believe this stuff, you're an idiot. I've tried to be a better person than that.
Very nice.
But I still believe that there are claims made in religion that if we believe in science, we have to be extremely sceptical of to the point of dismissing them. I mean, if you really believe that someone was born of a virgin, that is, to all our understanding of biology, is biological impossible. Is it inherently bad that people believe those things?
Not necessarily. What I do think is bad is if people don't put in the effort to question their own beliefs, to interrogate their beliefs. I mean, that's really what science is about. Science is not about facts or how things are one way or another. Of course, facts are important, but science is about a perspective on reality where you take in information and you subject it to a rigorous set of thoughts that allow you to determine for your own self whether you think those thoughts are right or wrong. And when people don't do that, when they just accept what they're told, that, to me, is where the real problem lies.
Professor Hawking had some strong opinions on religion. We've got a little clip here. Let's take a look at that.
Religion has been a force for evil throughout history. I think the conventional afterlife is a fairy tale for people afraid of the dark. One can't prove that there wasn't a creator. All one can do is offer a more reasonable explanation based on science.
What do you make of that?
Well, I think there's a lot of truth in what he's saying. And as a scientist, many of my beliefs align with exactly what Stephen Hawking is saying. At the same time, let's look around the world and recognize that the force of religion has not only been for evil, it's also been for good in some ways. You know, you can say that there are many things that are a force for evil. Nuclear energy is something that can be really good for the world, but nuclear weapons are pretty bad for the world, and they all come from the same underlying physics. So you have to be careful about labeling something as evil as opposed to labeling how it's used as evil. And for sure, religion has been used for evil. It's also been used for good.
Often something you hear from people of religion, if you mention that you don't have faith yourself, is that, you know, how do you find meaning? How do you look around?
Yeah.
What gets you through? And I feel like with your work, you would have an understanding of just how mother-flippin' vast the universe is and how freaking tiny we are,
Yeah.
how tiny you and I are. Does that fill you with joy? Do you revel in that tininess, or does it terrify you and make you cry at night?
It's both. It's really both.
Oh my God, me too!
Yeah, there you go.
We're the
You
same.
want a hug? You want a hug? But, you know, and it's not just in space. Many people have that perspective. We're tiny against the grand expanse of the universe. We're also tiny in time. We exist for a little tiny window of time in the grand expanse of the cosmic timeline. That's frightening and thrilling because it means that we're very special, right? The fact that we're here and can think and can understand that fact, but that specialness, it's ephemeral. It goes away very quickly, and that is frightening.
What's it like being a scientist who's really passionate about public education of science in the era of Trump? The Trump administration has done a hell of a lot of things. We've heard about him talking about climate change as a hoax. There have been directives for some government departments saying don't use the term climate change. Some would say a climate change denier has been elected to the Environmental Protection Agency.
Yeah.
What the hell is it like over there?
Well, it's kind of awful, right? You have someone, as you're saying, who has a complete disregard for how the world actually works. And that is antithetical to everything that we have learned over the past few hundred years. I never thought that there'd be a moment in my life where I'd need to have a conversation where we're saying, let's agree on the basic structure of how the world is and then have an argument about what to do with it. Policy arguments, that's great. But we're actually arguing now about the basic structure, the basic facts of how things are. Who would have thought that that's where we would be here in the 21st century? And yet we are. And that's nuts.
Do you see that changing if, you know, say Trump loses in 2020 and the Democrats get in? Is that going to restore sanity, or is something fundamentally changed in the American politic where that we can't get back to that?
No, it'll come right back. You know, science is powerful. Science is absolutely powerful because it's self-correcting, and ultimately it wins because it is the pathway that allows you to make predictions that are testable, that you can go out and determine through experiment and observation whether they are right or whether they are wrong.
Fake news.
Science wins. Okay. So people can say that. It'll be a temporary blip. And my guess is that 100 years from now, people will not even know what Trump was.
If they're still alive, yeah, that'd be great. Thank you so much for being here. It's a real pleasure to meet you. Thank you for spending the small amount of limited time that we have in this universe together. Professor Brian Greene, everybody. Thank you very much.